Okay, when it comes to graphing, we can do most of this stuff in the calculator and find some of the information of the key features in the calculator. But there are some things that you should know without a calculator. You should know the vertex. So your vertex is based off of two numbers. The number inside with your x, that's always the opposite, so it's -1. It's based off of this number right here. And then the second one is the number on the outside and the right side at the very, very end. So that's at a +2, and that would never change the signs. So we should already know that this graph, that's basically the middle of your graph. For a more accurate graph, we can just go into the calculator for that. So I've already typed it in. If you need to get cube root, you hit shift, and then it's the, let me just show you, cube root and the caret key. I'm gonna get rid of that though. I don't want to mess this up. So we go into the graph, and then we can manually just go into the trace button, and we can manually type in some stuff. So at 0, we can already see it's at 3. And if I go to the calculator, I can go to 1. And I don't typically graph decimals. I go try to find stuff that are not decimals. You can estimate, but I'd rather not. I just want to put on all the things that give me some whole numbers. So at 7, I'm at 4. 7, 4. Then on the opposite side, so it's in the negatives, -1. At -1, I'm at 2. So -1, I'm at 2. I already knew that. That's the vertex. And at -2, I'm at 1. So we're about -2, 1, about right here. And then I can just keep typing stuff in. -3, it's a decimal, -4. Oops, that's +4, -4. Negative, -5. I don't know why this board is not working with me tonight. -6, -7, -7, -8, -9. So at -9, it's at 0, which is kind of off of our graph, but I'm still going to put it. I don't care. Because I know about the key features, and the key features are going to make me find that anyways. So it comes like this, something like that. So for the key features, the y-intercept is at 0, 3. There's only 1. The x-intercept is at -9, 0. There's only 1. The domain of these cube roots, very easy, because they're always -infinity to infinity. And so is the range. So anytime you have a cube root, these are always going to be your answers. Even if it was x to the third, it would be those same exact answers for the domain and range. Now, this graph is increasing forever from -infinity to +infinity. It's always going up. So that means decreasing does not exist. And that's pretty much it for the key features for that question. The second question is done pretty much the same way. We have a vertex located at +3 and +2. Remember, it's always the opposite of this one and the same as this one. So I can go to +3, +2, and put my first dot. Go into the graphing calculator. I'm going to clear out this equation and type in the new equation. So square root, I believe there was a negative in the front. So negative, and then we have x minus 3. And then on the outside, we have +2. So same thing as before. It's a square root shape, but it's also a reflection because of the negative in front. So when I hit my trace button, it says error at 0, and that's because the graph doesn't exist at 0. You can kind of see right here in this area, there's nothing there. So it can't give us some values. So the starting point is at 3, so I need to go to the right. So I go to 4. At 4, it's at 1. So I'll put that right here. Then I'm going to go to 5. So if I go to 5, that's a decimal. 6, it's another decimal. 7, 7 is at 0. So it's about right here. And I imagine 8 is probably going to be a decimal, but I'll just check to be sure. And it's a decimal. So our shape goes something like this. So if we're going to do the key features, the x-intercept is at 7, 0. The y-intercept does not exist because it doesn't touch the y-axis. The domain, so our domain from left to right starts at 3. And it's including 3. And then it goes to the right forever, so it goes off to positive infinity. A lot of people think that's a negative infinity because the graph's going down, but domain is not about up and down. Domain is about left and right, and that graph is going to the right forever. Your range from the lowest to the highest, this graph continues forever. So it's coming from negative infinity, and it's going up to the highest point, which is at 2. So if we do our end behavior, as x approaches 3, here's 3 right here. As x approaches 3, y heads to 2. If you look at the right side, it says as x goes to infinity, so as x goes towards the infinity, the graph heads down. So that's to negative infinity. And that's our answer for that one. Okay, the next one. Now in this chapter, we learned about exponents and how if you have an exponent that's a fraction, it's basically a radical. So you can do that in the calculator also, but all the rules, they still work. So the vertex is going to be -1 and -2. So -1 and -2 is down here. And we can go into the graphing calculator for the rest. So if I want an accurate graph, I can use the trace feature. Let me get this deleted first. So I've got parentheses, x plus 1 to the, I need a 1/2 up there, so I'm going to go 1 on top, 2 on the bottom. Now you need to get out of that exponent. If you notice the cursor got a little bit bigger, and then we go -2. So now it's at the same level as the parentheses. So there's our basic square root shape. If we go into trace, it's already got a point at 0, -1. Again, this is going to give me some decimals, but I'll just keep working my way through until I can find something that's not a decimal. So 3, so at 3 it's at 0. And we're going to have some more decimals here in a second. 4 is a decimal. 5 is probably a decimal. 6, another decimal. 7, 8. So 8, finally, we're at 1. So it's about right here. So our shape goes like this. And I don't think they even ask us for key features. We just had to graph it. So there's our graph. And guys, you're using graphing calculators on this test. You can't miss graphs. Type them in, trace them out, and then put the dots on there. It's pretty simple. So let's see what we got here. It says, what's the equation? So if you want the equation, this is the x, and this is the y. They also refer to that as the h and the k. Now the way the formula works is h goes inside with the x. But the catch is, that one has to change signs. So when we look for our equation, it has to be a -3 in there. So right away we can get rid of this one. We can get rid of this one. And so it's down to those 3. Also, be careful about crossing out the bubble. You don't want to cross out the bubble because it might, if we're running it through a machine, might think that you selected A. So cross out the choice, not the actual bubble. Then the number at the end is the K, and that one doesn't change sign, so it has to have a +2. This one does not have a +2. This one has a -2. This one has the +2, so that's the correct choice. So we bubble it in. Try to stay in between the lines because I did a horrible job there. And that's it for that page. Now I'm going to go ahead and keep going because these problems, they're all about graphing, so I'm going to put them all in the same video. So this one's pretty much the same. If you notice, these are all square roots. If you also notice, this square root is going down. Usually a square root shape goes like this. So when it flips over, that means there's a negative in front. So there's a reflection. So it can't be this one, it can't be this one. So we're down to those 3 choices. Then again, this is your H, this is your K. H is special because it changes signs. So we should see an x +2 on the inside. We should also see a +1 on the outside. So this one doesn't have the +1 on the outside. This one has a -1 on the outside. So choice D is the correct choice. So what else we got here? That's all review. Some more graphs. To describe how to obtain the graph, x - 2 + 4 from the parent function. So anytime you have something inside here with the x, that's your horizontal shift. So I have a number now inside with the x. And because of the way that it's always the opposite, This is actually going to say right 2. The vertical shift is the number at the end, so that's also going to be up 4. Those are your answers.